Welcome to Rewired for Great Success with Dr. Aimee V. Sanchez, neuropsychologist, executive coach, organizational development expert, award-winning best-selling author, and international speaker. Dr. Sanchez is on a mission to impact 1 million leaders through her thought leadership and specialized programs for women leaders. She is passionate about helping organizations strategize and draw a direct connection between leadership, diversity and inclusion, and organizational outcomes. Welcome to the conversation.
Yes, and today we'll be talking with Shirley Hoogstra, JD, President of the Council for Christian Colleges and Universities. In this episode, we will be talking about the power of executive presence and how important this is for women leaders seeking to advance in their careers. So first, I want to say, welcome, Shirley. I'm so honored to have you here. Thank you.
I'm so honored to be with you again, Dr. Sanchez. It's just been a delight for us to get to know each other as executive women, and for us to share stories and just to really build our networks and our portfolios. I talk about that all the time, about how just saying yes to things. In fact, you might find this interesting. I was talking to a young mentee on the phone just this week, and she wanted to know, how do you say no to things? And I thought, well, I like to pose that a different way. I like to ask, how do you say yes to the right things?
Oh, that's good.
Because if you have a mindset of no, you might miss an opportunity because you're always looking for a reason to not be involved.
Yes.
And I said to her, why don't you figure out where you would like to be in your career? What experiences would add the kinds of experiences you need to be ready for that? Say yes to those, and then the no's will come easily because you'll say, oh,
yes.
Well, I don't have time for that because I've said yes to the things I want.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's amazing. So look, if you're listening and you're just sitting here listening, I encourage you, take it all in, let it kind of, marinate. But also I want to encourage you to take notes. Listen to this again, because there are going to be some nuggets here that we're going to get from Miss Shirley, and I'm so excited. So, okay, I want to begin by just sharing a little bit with listeners about who you are, if that's all right.
Great.
Okay, so she has such an impressive career, and she is a trailblazer. Shirley became the 7th president of the Council for Christian Colleges and Universities, CCCU, in September of 2014. And prior to that, she served for 15 years as a vice president for student life at her alma mater, Calvin University. She also spent more than a decade practicing law as a partner at a firm specializing in litigation in New Haven. And in her current capacity as president of CCCU, Shirley continues to work on being somewhat assertive about advocating for expanding diversity and inclusion on those campuses at CCCU. And she also is tethered to the mission of being able to help the universities be able to offer affordable and available education that's accessible to all students. So Shirley and I initially connected through a mutual friend that we have, best-selling author Deborah Smith-Pigay. And Deborah had recently released a book called Lead Like a Woman, in which Shirley and I were both contributors. So I want to ask you, Shirley, just a little bit about what you shared in this amazing book written by Deborah about the different aspects of executive presence, and also how critical it is for women leaders. So in Deborah's book, you make a statement about the importance of women surrounding themselves with a constellation of developmental relationships. Can you kind of explain to us what that looks like in your own life?
Well, I certainly am, first of all, Dr. Sanchez, so grateful to be on your program. You are helping leaders, and particularly women leaders, to be their best and to make a difference. And I'm so grateful to be just a small part of that, so thank you.
Thank you.
This idea of developmental friendships, well, first of all, I don't think we get anywhere significant by doing it alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about who we have with us on our journeys. And as a woman of faith, first of all, I'm just so grateful that I have a creator God, a wonderful Savior Father, who can be my prayer recipient and will say, I'm going to equip you for what I'm going to assign you. So first of all, I think that being a person of faith and loving Jesus and having Jesus love me and us back so deeply is first and foremost really the central aspect of my leadership strength. Mm-hmm. And then after that, he says, just like he gave to Jesus, I'm going to give you disciples. I'm going to have you be with people who are in your leadership journey. So for me, I have had really key mentors, both men and women, who have been for me and who have endorsed me or supported or recommended me along the way. That's one aspect. And then I've had deep friendships who are willing to give you good feedback. You know, there are people that will never tell you if you have green in your teeth. And then of course there are friendships who will say, you sounded kind of strident there, or were you nervous, or boy, you did great, or boy, you just really crushed it there. You need people who along the way who will encourage you and actually coach you.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think sometimes we have a tendency to want to do it on our own, in our own strength. And, as women of faith, we know that God gives us, like you said, he equips us with everything that we need, and we need to lean on him. But also when he brings these relationships and these people into our path to help develop us, that's a gift too.
It is. Well, I think it's part of the ways that he supports us. Mm-hmm. He says, look, I'm going to send you the right person at the right time to be your advisor, your guide, mm-hmm. your encourager. And I think it's so true that how does God work in the world? He works in the world through us mm-hmm. and for each other.
That's so good. So I want to shift a little bit. I want to talk a bit about the concept of executive presence.
Okay.
Because that might be a new term for some people, and they may not really understand what it is. And even in research, it's still kind of developing. Yes. But there was an interesting study done by Sylvia Hewlett in the Center for Talent Innovation. And she actually started this research with college graduates and then expanded into tapping into executives. But what they discovered is that executive presence is a dynamic concept, and that it's really a mix of a number of things, but she drills it down to three main parts. One is appearance, mm-hmm. the other is communication, and then gravitas, which is like mm-hmm. knowing your stuff cold on the spot. So what is your opinion on this? And what have you found to be true in your own experience as a woman leader?
I think it's critical, and I think it can also be developed. So it's not something that you either have or don't have. It's something to be aware of and then develop. So here's, I believe completely in her work. I think it is about appearance and your ability to have gravitas and your communication style. So let me just address it quickly, all three things.
Okay.
You want to, as a leader, you want to inspire confidence. Mm. And the basics of the things that she describes are a way of increasing the confidence that you have in yourself and you exhibit to others. Mm-hmm. So let's take appearance. We were just commenting when we began today. I thought, well, I'm going to speak about executive presence, so I'm going to put my most executive presence thing on, right?
Right.
And so here's the thing that I think women should do. I wish it weren't true, but I think when you're dealing in primarily all male environments, you got to look around and you have to say, what are they wearing? Mm. They're wearing suits. Mm-hmm. Why are they wearing suits? Because that is an outfit that works for the workplace that gives a sense of gravitas. Mm-hmm. I like the word gravitas. Mm-hmm. You look like you're prepared to work hard. You look like you're warm. You got a jacket on. You look like you're sharp. I tried to put a little, necklace on. I've got my earrings on that they match. I've got a shirt that is interesting. It's got kind of an artsy feel to it, but not overstated. Mm-hmm. Notice we have no cleavage. Yeah. And interestingly, I think that bare arms are great for some presentations, And I think they're also great for like a news anchor. You'll see news anchors doing that because they're trying to declutter themselves for a screen. But I think when you are around a table, you want to de-emphasize distraction and emphasize confidence. And so look around. Now, if you are an art dealer, if you're working in an art gallery, you probably want to do something, you know, with a little bit more pizzazz. But if you're working in an office, you want to have this appearance that says, you can trust me, I am reliable, I'm going to get the job done, and you don't have to worry about me being an embarrassment to you. So that's appearance.
That's very good. You know, a lot of people, I think when you said in a nutshell, it's about inspiring confidence, they think of that as an internal process. You know, like I need to be confident in myself so that I can project confidence. But really, it's kind of a mix of external confidence, people feeling as though you're able to exude some form of authority or that you're credible in your current position, that you're believable as a leader. So in what ways do you feel, based upon their experience, that women can use things like executive presence to help improve their relationships with male allies or key decision makers or stakeholders?
Right. So most people in a workplace want to make sure they're not going to be embarrassed by their endorsement of a person.
Okay.
And so when you are attentive to your surroundings, when you don't overtalk, when you are forceful but not brittle, when you are prepared, and when you can read a room, then male allies are like, yep, she's got it. I can trust her. She is not going to make me have to kind of clean up a situation afterwards. And I really think it's about presenting yourself for the most effective way so that they remember what you say and what you'll be doing rather than what you look like. And so I think executive presence is, again, about looking sharp, prepared, but not distracting. So not, you know, you don't want them to remember what you had on. You want them to remember what you said. And in a communication style, I think you learn to speak what I'm just going to call bottom line.
No, that's really good. So, you know, I'm even thinking as you're talking, like there are a lot of women out there that come from diverse backgrounds, and they may be one of only or one of few. And so there is this notion of hypervisibility, right? Where you're visible because you're one of only or one of few, but then there's still these perceptions that you're battling. And sometimes there can be a ricochet from that. There can be unconscious bias. There can be overt bias. There could be all types of the biases. And so managing those perceptions is important. So I think it's important for the folks that are listening to hear and understand that we're not saying that you have to look like everyone else or that you have to negate your femininity as you are elevating your presence as a leader, but that you need to be able to do it in a way that's authentic, but also remember your audience. Right?
Exactly, Dr. Sanchez. It's find your authenticity, find out what makes you comfortable. Don't negate that, right? But then also just be aware of your circumstances. When I was a lawyer and I was arguing a custody matter, I had a very lovely wool periwinkle blue suit. And I wore that suit when I was arguing for, let's say, a mother and her children, because I wanted the judge to actually see more of the femininity and to say, that's right, we want the feminine influence in these children's lives. That's why we need to address this custody matter fairly. Now, when I was arguing tax returns, I'd dress in navy blue.
I love it. I love it. So there really is somewhat of an intention and a strategy, even when it comes to that appearance. And that's why we talk about, or that's why I'm talking about being able to leverage it. Because the idea is, and this is what I coach women around as well, is your intentionality about shaping the perception of how others see you. okay? Because
Yes.
if your goal is to advance in your leadership, you've got to be intentional and strategic about that. But even if you're just learning, if you're just out the gate, maybe you're in college or you're just graduating from college and you're wanting to know, I'm going into the workforce, what's expected of me? What we're
Mhm.
doing here is kind of a behind the scenes. We're
Right.
pulling you aside and we're saying, you know, these are the things that they don't always teach you in
Right.
school. These
Right.
are the things you didn't learn in your graduate program.
Right.
These
Right.
are the things maybe someone hasn't said to you. And I think that by having this conversation and allowing that knowledge to unfold, that it's going to benefit you.
Let's talk a little bit about what you've just were mentioning here about communication style, things that people don't tell you when you're in graduate school. And this is about unconscious bias too. I think, I wish it weren't true, but I would just talk about women, and there are stereotypes for all of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what you want to do is actually make sure that the stereotype they think might be, and I'm just going to talk about being a woman, emotional, that you don't get to the facts, that you tell stories versus that you go to what is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I would say to most women in the workforce, pay attention, especially to your boss. How do they communicate with you? And this can be for men and women. I'm a bottom line kind of person. So if I ask a question of one of my direct reports, I don't want to hear from him or her how they got there. I want them to tell me the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say, what does it look like for our balance sheet today? I want them to say, Shirley, we've got $500,000 of cash in the bank and we can make payroll.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bottom line. And then if I want them to say, well, how do you know that we can make payroll? Well, then they can give me more of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that you have to just be intentional about with the people who are superior in the line of command. How do you like me to communicate with you? Because sometimes women they just get beat around the bush a little bit, tell too many, for maybe their supervisor, too many facts. Just give me the bottom line and then expand. So it's an inverted funnel. Instead of a funnel with all the facts going down, give the smallest number of facts and build out if they ask you for more.
Very good. Yeah, bottom line communication. That's exactly what you're talking
Yes.
about. And you created a beautiful picture there.
Yeah.
So my last question is kind of a mix of the ones that we've been talking about, but specifically this is maybe action oriented, a call to action. For you women out there that might be challenged by factors of issues related to intersectionality, unconscious or gender bias, and you're feeling just hindered by your ability to lead authentically and in alignment with your core values, I wanted to ask Shirley, what is your advice?
I think, first of all, find allies at work that can help you talk through what it is that you're experiencing. Is it, in fact, an unconscious bias, or is there something else? So make sure that you really understand that. And I think that you cannot underestimate great performance. And I had this when I was working in a college setting. My male colleagues could wear shorts and a sweater with like the college logo on it, and they always had authority. It's like they were male, they had authority. It didn't even matter that they wore shorts. And I remember the day I walked in with shorts and like a little college logo, I'd have to prove myself all over again.
Yeah.
And so it's just true. So you just have to say to yourself, how can my performance give me the foundation to then later on say, I kind of expected that I would be considered for that advancement. And I want to make sure that my name is actually in consideration for that advancement. You're speaking to your boss now. Is there anything that you need to know to make sure I'm ready for that advancement?
That's good. Now, I know that, clearly there's a proliferation of women that are desiring to lead. And we've seen kind of the shift happening in the political scene and in other arenas as well. But I kind of want to ask you, if there's women that are wanting to study up on this, because it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right?
It is.
Your
It is.
leadership journey. What are some things that they can tap into? What type of reading would you suggest?
There's 3 books I'm going to recommend.
Okay.
The first book is The CEO Next Door.
Mm.
And The CEO Next Door is just a great book. It's written by women, and if you aspire to be the head of an organization at some point, it will give you a sense that I can do it. You don't have to have an Ivy League degree. What they want, though, is they want people who have learned to be decisive, who care about their colleagues. And it gives the tools. It's a great book, The CEO Next Door. And then another book that I would really recommend is a book called Leadership on the Line. And Leadership on the Line is a book that talks about how you've got to get on the balcony. What do they mean by that? If you're sitting in a room, can you imagine yourself literally on a balcony looking over and making some good observations about what's happening? Can you read the room? And I think that this Leadership on the Line book also says, if you want to advance and have a leadership position of significance, you need to really love people, because that's what motivates leadership, because leadership is hard. And then I would also really encourage people to read biographies of great women. There are so many biographies of great women. And I would read them from the background that you find yourself in. And by doing so, you will be inspired by their stories. And then you'll say, oh, that's how, they had a failure along the line, but it didn't stop them. You know, they had unfairness happen to them and it didn't stop them. And then you can just say, yes, I'm going to both persist and persevere.
That's amazing. Those are 3 great resources that Shirley has shared. So if you didn't catch those, listen to the replay and make sure that you take notes. Now, this time has zoomed by. I want to thank Shirley for being here. Shirley, is there anything that you want to share with our listeners on the way out here?
You know what? I would say to listen to your podcast, and I'll tell you why. I'm just one small part of it, but you are putting together an incredible series. It's really easy to get 20 minutes of inspiration, and I hope a few things that we've talked about today. And I think that they should watch how you interact with people, Dr. Sanchez, because you get people to open up, trust you, and talk to you. And that is the secret to success.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you so much for being here. It was my pleasure. And thank you, everyone, for listening. My name is Dr. Sanchez, and I will see you next time.
Bye now.
Okay.
Thank you for joining the conversation. Remember to subscribe, share, and join us next time.